Writers, you have been doing such hard work developing your personal narratives. Up to this point, you have generated ideas, drafted, gone timeline to draft. Like, look, I have all my little notes here. Gone timeline to draft, elaborated using I add, revised using Name It and Power of Three, revised using ARMS yesterday. And today we're going to use cups to highlight the U in green and the pink for punctuation, just to make sure that we have our sentences all good to go. Because today is really our last day to get our personal narratives finished and polished before we take it to the next step, which is making it a dual perspective narrative. So let's get started with that work. All right, so just a couple of things. As far as the strategy that we'll use today, our strategy is called CUPS, and it's right here in our assignment for today. CUPS reminds us to, C is for capitalizing, the names, places, I, because I takes the place of someone's name. So the rule is that if a name begins with that capital letter, so does I, because it takes the place of someone's name. Titles of things, sentence beginnings, all need a capital letter at the beginning. All right, and then the U in CUPS is for usage, matching your nouns and verbs and tenses correctly. So we ran, right? And just kind of making sure that things sound right. Oftentimes when you read through your writing, if you get to something you're like, that doesn't really sound right, it probably needs a different verb tense to go with the nouns that you're using. Then we have the P in CUPS is for punctuation, making sure that you are using that punctuation correctly, that you're using it purposefully as a writer to make your writing more interesting for your readers. Also, the S in CUPS is for spelling. You guys are very fortunate to have the technology at your fingertips to where if you start typing a word, you don't even have to type the whole word. You can just tap and choose the word that shows up above your keyboard that you're trying to type. So make sure that you are double checking that autocorrect didn't replace a word with something else that you didn't intend for it to be. That would kind of be the big thing there. And then making sure that all of the little red squiggly lines saying, hey, your spelling is wrong, make sure that you double check all of those. Click on them, see what pops up, and if none of the words are what you mean, then you might want to get with me or Miss Anderson, Miss Sargent, Miss K, and say, hey, I can't figure out why this word is still misspelled. This is just something that good writers do. We have to make sure that we have the capitalization, the usage, the punctuation, the spelling, because it helps our readers to really be comfortable with our writing, and it makes it easier for them to read. So then they get to enjoy it, which is the overall goal. Okay. So you have taken your writing from timeline dots to draft. So here's what I have so far. And remember, teachers, we don't get to write as much as you guys do because we're usually going around the room and meeting with you guys. So please excuse my partial draft. But you guys have all of this color coding going on. So today, what I really want you to do is just go through your writing and make sure that your sentences are starting with an uppercase letter. Make sure that that capitalization is there. So we're going to show that today by highlighting it or changing the background of the text. We're going to make that green, okay? So I'm going to go through and reread it. I had so much fun at the lake today. Okay, I have my capital letter. It makes sense. You know what? I'm just going to make this bright green and make it bold, and we'll call it good. I had so much fun at the lake today. And I think that deserves an exclamation point because as a 4-year-old, being at the lake can be super duper fun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make that pink. I wonder if I can lean over on dad and take a quick nap. Okay, so I'm wondering, I'm questioning. So my punctuation sounds appropriate, looks appropriate. My sentence made sense. And I began with an uppercase letter, so I capitalized where I needed to. So I'm gonna highlight that with green. And notice I'm just changing the text color, and my reason for that is that, you know, sometimes it can be tricky to find the highlighting or whatever, and right now on my computer, that's kind of my trouble, and so I'm working beyond it, and I'm not gonna get stuck on, hey, I can't highlight right now. So I'm just changing the color of the letters, which works for me. All right, so my next sentence. Slowly, I began to lean to my left and place my head on my dad's upper arm. Okay, so does that sentence make sense? Yes. Do I have an uppercase letter at the beginning of my sentence? Yes. So I'm going to make that green because I started green, highlight green for the uppercase letter, and then a period. Is a period what I need there? Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that to pink so I know that I've already checked that punctuation. He gently wraps his arm around my shoulders. I wonder if I should clarify that he gently wraps his right arm around my shoulders. So notice that as writers, like, we can still be clarifying. We can still be adding in words to make the movie in my mind come out a little bit easier and easier for my reader to see. So I'm still, if I notice that something's not quite right, I can change it. That's the glory of all of these steps. We get to know our writing inside and out. That's kind of the glory of being a writer. Okay, so a period makes sense there. All right, and then I have Dawn pop Pat Benatar into the radio for me. So I have those quotation marks, so my punctuation. Remember, with quotation marks, you need to have it around what the person says. So I could easily clarify here and put Dad pop or Dawn pop Pat Benatar into the radio for me. Oh, and I want that lowercase. Remember, if you look at an actual writing text, that writer is going to have a lowercase letter after that punctuation because it's still part of that same sentence. The only reason why we wouldn't have something here like a period, exclamation point, question mark is because if it's two periods in a sentence, like if I were to continue and say, my dad suggests. So you can't have two periods in the same sentence. So when you're clarifying and you have my dad suggests or she said to me or something like that, you can't have two periods. So if I were to have it like this, I could just put a comma there and leave that period at the very end of the sentence. But I'm going to make it that exclamation point. And this is still following those rules because I don't have two periods in the same sentence. Okay, so I'm double checking. I've got this. So punctuation is good. Good there. I've got the quotation marks at the beginning like I'm supposed to for quotes, making sure that I can see exactly what my character says. So I've heard a teacher call them like the gate. So we keep those words gated so they stay together. And then more punctuation. There we go. And then if you notice Pat Benatar, it's the name of a person. So I have to make sure that that is also an uppercase letter. So I'm going to bold it and right here. All right, and then the reason why I don't capitalize dad right here is because I have my dad. So it's clarifying and kind of giving a little bit of ownership as to whose dad, like it's already clarifying. But if I were to say dad suggests, then dad is taking the place of my dad and instead of his name. So dad is kind of his name. So if I do it that way, then it would be uppercase for name, dad suggests. Okay, So you are making your beginning letter, you're capitalizing the beginning letter of your sentence, you are capitalizing names, you are capitalizing places and any other things that are important, titles too, okay? And then also you're double checking that punctuation at the ends of your sentences. In your workspace today, in the yellow part, I'm going to include this personal narrative writing rubric because again, this is like your last day to finish up your draft. You have tomorrow, you have Wednesday, so you can finish up things then if you don't get them done today. But this just kind of gives you an idea. So we want to be over here in the 3. So from our timeline, remember we generated using timelines, you want to have 4 or more timeline dots. You want to have I add. There is 3 or more I add strategies used per dot. So what that means is on my writing, I know that this is 1 dot still because I have that little asterisk to show me that, hey, this was my timeline dot label. So I have at least 3 I add. So here you notice my sunburned skin. I haven't color coded. So I wouldn't get my 3 points there because I don't have evidence of 3 I add yet because I haven't gone through and color coded. Okay. And then you have sentences. The goal is to have at least 4 to 7 sentences per dot. If you want to earn those 3 points, then you have 8 or more sentences per dot. And then finally, punctuation and capitalization, which is what you've been using cups for today. There is appropriate capitalization and punctuation throughout. So read carefully, make sure it makes sense and that it's interesting to your writer, and happy writing. Way to go, guys. You are almost done with your first part of your personal narratives.